Hello, citizens. Welcome back to another edition of Fantasy Talk with Terry Mandangle. That's me. I'm Terry. How we doing tonight? I'm well. I hope you are too. Today we're going to be talking about running backs. We use the player prop tool at bettingpros.com to come up with a list of the consensus projections for all of the running backs for week one. But before we get started, if you don't mind dropping a like on the video and hitting that sub button, it really helps out the channel. All right, let's get into it. All right, here we go. As you can see, the number one player on the list this week is going to be Saquon Barkley. We're going to have a tier of three players in the top tier this week. It's going to be Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, and Bijan Robinson. Saquon Barkley, number one, playing Dallas this week. Projected for 102.5 rushing yards, 15.5 receiving yards, 2.4 receptions, and a 0.9 anytime touchdown. That's going to be good for 19.6 fantasy points this week. Number two on the list is going to be Christian McCaffrey, San Francisco running back. He is at Seattle. He is projected for 69.9 rushing yards, 31.4 receiving yards, 4.2 receptions, and 0.7 anytime touchdowns. That would be good for 18.53 fantasy points. Number three on the list would be Bijan Robinson, the running back for Atlanta. They are playing Tampa Bay this week. He's going to be projected for 78.7 rushing yards, 22.1 receiving yards, 3.4 receptions, and 0.8 anytime touchdown. That's going to be good for 18.28 fantasy points. As you can see here on the tier list, we got three guys in the top tier, 18 to 20 points. Number one, Saquon Barkley. Number two, Christian McCaffrey. Number three, Bijan Robinson. All right, the next tier is going to be guys in the 16 to 18 range. That is going to be this five right here, number 4 through 8. Starting off with number 4, Jahmyr Gibbs. He is going to be playing at Green Bay this week, projected for 68.8 rushing yards, 24.7 receiving yards, 3.3 receptions, and 0.8 anytime touchdown. That's going to be good for 17.45 fantasy points. Number 5 on the list is Devon Achane, Miami running back at Indianapolis this week. Projected for 59.6 rushing yards, 28.8 receiving yards, 4.2 receptions, and 0.7 anytime touchdowns. That would be good for 17.24 fantasy points. Keep an eye on him, though, because he does have that calf injury. So from what I hear now, he is going to play, but just keep an eye on it. We'll see what happens on Sunday. Number 6 on the list, Chase Brown, Cincinnati running back at Cleveland, going to be projected for 65.4 rushing yards, 20.4 receiving yards, 3.4 receptions, 0.07 anytime touchdown. That is going to be good for 16.18 fantasy points. Number 7 on the list is going to be Tampa Bay running back Bucky Irvin. He is playing at Atlanta this week. He's projected for 72.1 rushing yards, 18.3 receiving yards, 2.9 receptions, and 0.7 anytime touchdown. That's going to be good for 16.14 fantasy points. And number 8, last guy in this tier, is Jonathan Taylor, Indianapolis running back. He's going to be playing Miami this week. Projected for 85.1 rushing yards, 9.1 receiving yards, 1.8 receptions, and 0.8 on the anytime touchdown. That is going to be good for 16.02 fantasy points. Now let's take a look here at the tier list. As you can see here, we have number 4, Bijan Robinson, number 5, Devon Achane, number 6, Chase Brown, number 7, Bucky Irving, and number 8, Jonathan Taylor, all in that second tier, projected to score 16 to 18 points this week. All right, the next tier is going to be these 5 players right here, number 9 through 13, projected to score 14 through 16 fantasy points. Number 9 is going to be Derrick Henry, Baltimore running back at Buffalo this week, projected for 89 yards rushing, 5.7 yards receiving, 1.1 receptions, and 0.9 on the anytime touchdown. That's going to get you 15.97 fantasy points. Number 10 is Josh Jacobs, Green Bay running back. He's going to be playing Detroit this week. Projected for 67.8 rushing yards, 16.4 receiving yards, 2.4 receptions, and 0.8 on the anytime touchdown. That's going to be good for 15.62 fantasy points. Number 11, New Orleans running back Alvin Kamara, playing Arizona this week. We're going to have him projected at 53.8 rushing yards, 27.4 receiving yards, 4.1 receptions, and 0.5 on the anytime touchdown. That would be good for 15.22 fantasy points. Number 12, Los Angeles Rams running back Kyren Williams. He is playing Houston this week. They have him projected for 70.9 rushing yards, 9.7 receiving yards, 2 receptions, and 0.8 on the anytime touchdown. That would be good for 14.86 fantasy points. And last in this tier is going to be number 13, Ashton Jeanty. The rookie from Las Vegas is at New England this week. They have him projected for 65.4 rushing yards, 18.7 receiving yards, 2.6 receptions, and 0.6 on the anytime touchdown. That is going to be good for 14.61 fantasy points. So we'll take a look here on the tier rankings. We have the third tier, 14 to 16 points. Number 9, Derrick Henry. Number 10, Josh Jacobs. Number 11, Alvin Kamara. Number 12, Kyren Williams. Number 13, Ashton Jeanty. All right, the next tier is going to have 8 players in it. It is going to go from 14 to 21. We're going to start with number 14, James Cook, Buffalo running back, playing Baltimore this week. He's projected for 60.2 rushing yards, 16.5 receiving yards, 2.1 receptions, and 0.7 on the anytime touchdown. That's going to get you 13.97 fantasy points. Number 15 on the list is going to be James Conner, Arizona running back at New Orleans this week. He's going to be projected for 63.3 rushing yards, 16.2 receiving yards, 2.4 receptions, and 0.6 on the anytime touchdown. That would get you 13.95 fantasy points. Number 16 on the list would be Chuba Hubbard. That is the Carolina Panthers running back. He is at Jacksonville this week. He is going to be projected for 63.7 rushing yards, 11.2 receiving yards on 2.5 receptions, and a 0.6 on the anytime touchdown. Good for 13.59 fantasy points. Number 17 is Cleveland running back Jerome Ford. They're going to be playing Cincinnati this week. He is projected for 50.3 rushing yards, 19.5 receiving yards, 3.5 receptions, and 0.5 on the anytime touchdown. That would be 13.48 fantasy points. Number 18, Seattle running back Kenneth Walker, playing San Francisco. They have him projected for 54.7 rushing yards, 15.2 receiving yards, 2.6 receptions, and 0.6 on the anytime touchdown. That would be 13.19 fantasy points. Number 19 is the LA Chargers rookie Omarion Hampton. They are going to be playing Kansas City in Brazil on Friday night. He is projected for 56.9 rushing yards, 14.1 receiving yards on 2.1 receptions, and the 0.6 on the anytime touchdown. Good for 12.8 fantasy points. Number 20, Tennessee running back Tony Pollard at Denver this week, projected for 61.2 rushing yards, 14.7 receiving yards, 2.8 receptions, and 0.4 on the anytime touchdown. Good for 12.79 fantasy points. Finally, at the end of this tier, number 21, Travion Henderson, New England Patriots rookie running back. They're going to be playing Las Vegas this week. He's projected for 58.2 rushing yards, 15.7 receiving yards, 2.2 receptions, and 0.5 on the anytime touchdown. That is going to get you 12.59 fantasy points. Oh, I missed one. There's also Breece Hall is in this list as well with 12.2 fantasy points. He's projected for 50.7 rushing yards, 19.3 receiving yards, 2.8 receptions, and 0.4 on the anytime touchdown. All right, if you look here in the fourth tier here from 12 to 14 points, we have got number 14, James Cook. Number 15, James Conner. Number 16, Chuba Hubbard. Number 17, Jerome Ford. Number 18, Kenneth Walker. Number 19, Omarion Hampton. Number 20, Tony Pollard. Number 21, Travion Henderson. And number 22, Breece Hall. All right, the fifth tier is guys that are projected to score anywhere from 10 to 12 fantasy points. Looks like we have 7 players, starting at number 23, Aaron Jones. Minnesota running back at Chicago is projected for 51.6 rushing yards, 17.3 receiving yards on 2.7 receptions, and 0.4 on the anytime touchdown, good for 11.99 projected fantasy points. Number 24, Jaylen Warren, Pittsburgh running back at the New York Jets, projected for 49.5 rushing yards, 19.6 receiving yards on 3.2 receptions, 0.3 on the anytime touchdown, good for 11.91 fantasy points. Number 25, New York Giants running back Tyrone Tracy at the Washington Commanders, projected for 53.9 rushing yards, 13.8 receiving yards, 2.1 receptions, and 0.4 on the anytime touchdown. That would be good for 11.27 fantasy points. Number 26, Chicago Bears running back DeAndre Swift, playing Minnesota this week. They are projecting him to get 52.4 rushing yards, 12.9 receiving yards on 2.3 receptions, with the 0.4 on the anytime touchdown, good for 11.23 fantasy points. Number 27, Kansas City Chiefs running back Isaiah Pacheco. They're going to be playing the Chargers in Brazil. They have him projected for 52.8 rushing yards, 11.9 receiving yards on 2.1 receptions, 0.4 on the anytime touchdown, good for 10.97 fantasy points. Number 28 is Denver Broncos rookie R.J. Harvey. He's going to be playing the Tennessee Titans this week. They've got him projected for 44.2 rushing yards, 12.3 receiving yards on 1.9 receptions, 0.5 on the anytime touchdown. That would be good for 10.55 projected fantasy points. And number 29, David Montgomery, Detroit running back at Green Bay. Last guy on this tier. Projected for 42.2 rushing yards, 11.1 receiving yards, 1.7 receptions, 0.5 on the anytime touchdown, good for 10.03 fantasy points. All right, as you can see here in the second to last tier, 10 to 12 points, Aaron Jones, Jaylen Warren, Tyrone Tracy, DeAndre Swift, Isaiah Pacheco, R.J. Harvey, and David Montgomery. All right, the final tier is going to be guys under 10 points. We got guys like number 30, Travis Etienne, projected for 42.1 rushing yards, 15.9 receiving yards, 2.3 carries, and 0.3 on the anytime touchdown. That's good for 9.9 fantasy points. Number 31, Austin Eckler, Washington running back, playing the Giants this week. Projected for 27.3 rushing yards, 19.1 receiving yards on 2.8 receptions, 0.4 on the anytime touchdown. Good for 9.84 fantasy points. We've got J.K. Dobbins at number 32, Denver running back, playing Tennessee this week. 43.1 rushing yards, 8.6 receiving yards on 1.8 receptions, 0.4 on the anytime touchdown. That would be good for 9.37 fantasy points. Seattle backup running back Zach Charbonnet, playing San Francisco, projected for 31.4 rushing yards, 12.7 receiving yards on 2.1 receptions, 0.4 on the anytime touchdown, good for 8.91 fantasy points. Number 34, Javonte Williams, Dallas Cowboys running back at Philadelphia this week with a projection of 34.5 rushing yards, 9.9 receiving yards on 2.3 carries, and a 0.3 on the anytime touchdown, good for 8.54 fantasy points. And then finally, number 35, Houston running back Nick Chubb, playing the LA Rams, projected for 40.8 rushing yards, 3.6 receiving yards on 0.9 receptions, 0.4 on the anytime touchdown, would get 7.7 fantasy points. I would show you the bottom one, but they're missing some of the pictures, so there's a few of them in there. We got Travis Etienne, Austin Eckler, Javonte Williams, Zach Charbonnet. There are some wild cards down here. So these guys are rookies that are projected to be a part of the backfield somehow, some way. We don't have an exact split, so we're not quite sure on. Most of it is they're missing the receiving projections. Some of them have pretty good rushing projections, like Corey Krosky-Merritt for Washington, Caleb Johnson for Pittsburgh, Jordan Mason for Minnesota, Tank Bigsby for Jacksonville. They all are projected to get close to 40-ish yards. So if they happen to fall into the end zone at one point or get some receiving yards or maybe get used a little bit more than we really know how they're going to be used, those are all very packed backfields. So we are not quite sure. We're going to have to wait a week or two to see how they're going to end up using all of those running backs. All right, that's going to do it for running backs. Thank you very much for watching the video. I do appreciate it. If you got any information that was helpful out of this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time. Good luck crushing in week 1.